and some of them are interesting to mention. Uh, for example, on let's say it's the geology of today. Right now, more than 70% of Iranians live in cities, urbanization. More than 95% are educated, literate. I think the literacy rate. And on the education at university level, Iran is producing 200,000 engineers here, which is equivalent to the number that the United States is producing. And 60% of Iranian students are female students. Actually, best of my students are so they really focus on the study, their studies much better than the men. So this society, these people, is connected with the region, with the global, let's say, interactions. And I think if you go, I was in one just 2 weeks ago, 2 days ago, before coming here. The number of Iranians there is so many, right? Just a week ago we had Arba'in, this 40 days after the mortem of this ghost of Prophet Muhammad. 20 million people participated. More than 2 million got visas and went to Iraq. So if you want to understand this dynamism, Iran and the region, you have to also keep into account this urbanized, educated society is highly connected with the neighborhoods, and I think that's a very important point. Now on the third basket of concepts on foreign policy, uh, what I'm going to tell you here is very real. It may sound very, let's say, official in a way, but what Iran wants in the surrounding region, first of all, is security. So securing the regions around us is number one priority. Look what we did in ISIS, with fighting with ISIS. I think Americans were giving a slogan, or maximum they were bombing on from, their aircrafts. But Iranian youngsters sacrificed their life in fighting ISIS, because ISIS is not Islam the way that it is presented, killing people mercilessly, and actually it was a tool used by geopolitical forces to change the region. So we secured Iraq of ISIS, Mosul, and so on and so forth. The same in Syria. I think the same goes with our notion of other regions, that we want a region which is secure. And one of the reasons that we want to is secure, of course, our interest, but we have also the means available. And Iran is the only country in that region which is providing its own security. 100% independent. We are not a member of NATO or other military alliances and so on and so forth. The second point is Iran wants a prosperous region. I think this explains our economic interaction with the region. I think the vision or instruction that our ambassador has mostly is economic, isn't it? To expand economic ties. Actually, our foreign minister, for being a vote in the parliament, vote of confidence, had a speech, and yet I have two mega priorities. One is the region, the second one is economy. And now we are combining these together. Why? Because the prosperous region is the more secure. Because the prosperous region is good for the whole. And then I think we want a region to be respected, a respecting region. Very important. I explain it and finish. The region needs to be respected. The culture of the region should be respected globally. This is why I reject Islamophobia. Islam is not something that people should be afraid of. It should be respected. This is why we reject ISIS, because ISIS, the way that it was acting, was not garnering respect, and it was not true Islam. But the region, the cultures of the region should be. We are not. Yes, we are different in a way that we look toward the world. We believe in our own values, but it doesn't mean that we should be disrespected by the other places. So the respect is very important. Respect of our sovereignty, respect for our independence, for our identity, for our culture, for our interests. Our interests should be respected. It's not just the interest of Israel, interest of the United States or Israel or interest of the others that are should be dominant. Our interests also should be respected. This is the vision that we have. Now, with these three baskets, I would like also to mention that we have challenges. It's not just all easy issues. We have challenges of perception. There are negative perceptions made of not just Iranians, all people living in this region. We have to manage this challenge. When they say, Iran, they equate Iran with a specific notion. They reduce the totality of a country and a culture which has been deep-rooted in history to one single concept. Oh, Iran is supporting terrorism. It's a perception issue. Actually, a few years ago, exactly, I think about 7 years ago maybe, our school, the School of International Relations, where the majority of our diplomats, or graduates of that school, was hosting Ban Ki-moon, the former Secretary General of the United Nations, and Ban Ki-moon. And I was moderating the meeting because it was going to be a tough meeting. We had the news that he was going to somehow attack Iran while he was our guest. So he talked about different issues. He praised the Iranian culture, but in the end, he also said Iran three issues: Iran terrorism, Arab-Israeli conflict, and non-proliferation. And of course, he said, every day I go to work in New York, there's a beautiful picture of me on an Iranian carpet, given to me by Iranians or Iranian government. It's very beautiful. And we have another carpet, a wall carpet, very beautiful by Iran. And this is a poem of Sadi there. We read the poem of Sadi, Bani Adam Azai Tijaran, that human beings are the same parts of one body, and each one part of the body is aching and pain. You just cannot be. So we praise the Iranian carpet and culture, but also reduced Iran to view perceptions, which is dominant. Then I have to respond, and I said, Mr. Secretary General, you said Iranian carpets are beautiful. They are beautiful. But each carpet is made of millions of knots. Huh? Millions of knots, not just one. But at the end, they are beautiful. And Iranian carpets are reflective of the complex society of Iran. It is very complicated and complex. And you cannot simplify this society with the notion that is made by the West. Of course, he was off the guard, and I also continued. I teach a course on the history of the United Nations in the school. The students have to work on the biography and work of different secretary generals. When they come to you, they ask me a question, which I don't have an answer, and I want to ask you, They tell me, comparatively speaking, you, Your Excellency, are the most robust Secretary General of the history of the United Nations. And he said, of course, this question is also posed me in my home country. However, this is a challenge. We have other challenges, like there is a tendency in the region to perpetuate conflicts and war. I think global powers, extra-regional players, they like this region to be always in conflict. This is why I call it perpetual conflict. And I think and this is indeed a challenge. And I think another challenge is that they want to shape the region. They want to shape our thinking of the region. But it is our region. Of course, we have to work hard. And I think people here are the same. People share the same culture. So to end how to understand the Iranian policies, I think why first we should understand, because there are assumptions. There is a process of construction of the region, and I think there are commonality of interests. And how we can understand, place is important, past is important, people are important, and the policies and forward projection are important. And putting all this together with the region, I think the region, people of the region, really are the same. I was looking for a casualty proverb in the internet. I cannot pronounce your language, but the English translation, which I found interesting, was very fascinating. That if the people are united, there is no place for hostility. So I think this is our vision for the region. I stop here. I'm ready for your questions.
Thank you, Professor Dr. We have maybe around 15 minutes. Please ask your question, raise your hand.
May I start? My name is Abdushin. I'm visiting professor here at the Regional Studies Department from Russia. Thank you for your speech. It was really interesting for me. But I'm curious about some specific details.
Please.
What's the Iranian strategy today toward, for example, Afghanistan? Because I'm interested because some prominent Russian think tanks and experts say that Iran today is close to Taliban movement. And some of the Taliban fighters even are training at Revolutionary Guards camps. I don't think it's kind of prominent.
Can I correct all the questions and answer them?
As you wish.
I think then I will have more questions that I may combine them.
Sure. Let's have some more questions and then
Yeah.
please. Let me introduce yourself.
Учим один для Казахстана, Казахстан, 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 Викторстан, موضوع رسالة رغبة قزاقستان إيران در شرایط ژئوپلیتیک مستحکم و شما می‌دونید که ایران همیشه چند سال چیزی کشور بسته بود و به این سبب چیزی دسترسی به مدرک به مثلا اسناد مثلا به اسناد قراردادهای قزاقستان و ایران مثلا نداریم و این مشکل است و به خاطر اینکه من سطح دکترا یک سطح بالاتر از دانشجو مثلا بکالوریات هست. به این سبب مشکل داریم به دسترسی. میتونید به عنوان که شما رئیس انستیتوی پژوهش‌های وزارت خارجه هستید. مثلا اینطور دیسپونیبلیته رو چی دارد مثلا که از طرف دانشگاه مثل بيران مثلا институционно китапханеми в Иран و مثلا کتابخانه‌های دانشگاه‌های بهشتی نمیدونم تهرانی و اونجا کار کنم و هم میدونم که سفارت ایران در قزاقستان و هم وزارت امور خارجه ایران در نظر میگیرم، یعنی در نظرشون هست یک مجموعه قراردادهای بین القومی. بله این آقای سفیر که در جریانه و میتونم من به عنوان دانشجو رو اونا بپرسم بگیرم. این خیلی مهمه چون میخوام
اینجوری بقیه هم سوال کردن، گرفت هم سوال کردن. فقط بگیم بینش سوال کردیم که بقیه هم بدونن. خیلی خالصه.
کوتاه بگم؟
خیلی کوتاه بگیم.
Я и тержима к Андрюсе. В общем, вопрос у нас был касательно моей докторской диссертации. Так как являюсь на данный момент студентом Евразийского университета, докторантом, естественно, тема своей диссертации, мне всегда была интересна тема Ирана, политики Ирана в Центральной Азии, в частности в Казахстане. Поэтому из-за, естественно, объективных проблем, недоступности в некоторой степени каких-то документов, определенной литературы, договоров между Казахстаном и Ираном, допустим, в данном случае. Естественно, я запросила помощи, поддержки и возможности пройти международную практику в Исламской Республике Иран этим летом. То есть я хочу написать, целью моей диссертации является написать достоверную, как можно, полную информацию между нашими странами.
Okay.
So one more question. That's the last question then. Others?
Thank you for your speech. It was a very interesting speech. My name is Nazan Tukabek. I'm a student of International Relationship Faculty. And my question is that we have heard that recently there was an earthquake in Iran. So could you tell us the consequences of this catastrophe and how the government is trying to solve this problem today?
I start by your question because it doesn't relate to my speech, huh? But it also is good because it shows the regional emotion. You know, when there is an earthquake, actually the poem that Ban Ki-moon read in our school from Sadi applies here. You know, Sadi says, human body is like one. All of the human people or humanity are like one body. If one organ has pain, the others cannot rest, and he calls you as a human being if you are not sensitive to the suffering of the other. How I can call you a human being? So your question is very humanistic and very touching. I think first of all, I have to thank the government of Kazakhstan, your president, and the Speaker of the Parliament, and the message of condolence. You see that this time of sorrow is very important for people, psychologically, and for the government of Iran. But I think Iran was very quick in responding. It was a really devastating, and thus far, I think around 400 people have been killed, more than 1,700 or even more have been damaged, injured, and but I think there is a quick response by everybody, including I think President today, flew to the area to respond. I may also add, since I worked as ambassador to Geneva and humanitarian section of the United Nations is also in Geneva. I have learned through my experience there that Iran has a good humanitarian assistance system. So, because our country is very prone to different natural disasters, including earthquakes. So we have developed a very, let's say, quick response capability, and we do our best. But I think whatever we do, we cannot replace the lives of people who have been lost, especially they are like us. Actually, this is the golden rule of human life. Put yourself in the shoes of the others. And today morning, I try to put my feet in the shoes of the others. It was very difficult. But I thank you very much. I think we will respond. And that's what there has been no need for any international assistance. Now, on your question on Kazakhstan and Iran documents, I think first of all there is a book published on impression management of Iran and Kazakhstan and 1999 to 2006, the Iran-Kazakhstan arguments from 1992 to 2013. In Persian and in Kazakh, so you can use it. But you can visit our archive also when you are in Iran. And I can tell my colleagues to help you in locating the documents. We have documents, so it may be not easy to find all of them, but you may also interview our former ambassadors who were here. I think 25 years of relationship, and I think all of them are in Iran or available. So having interview with them is very good. Now on Taliban and Iran, I'm happy that you brought this question, and what you added was more interesting. That's some Russian honorists, right? You know, what Iran is written about and what Iran is, usually there is difference. So this is what we call constructed Iran. You know, the real Iran is different from the constructed Iran. You know, Taliban and Iran is one issue that we have to discuss, but your question was more important, Iranian policy on Afghanistan. Our policy on Afghanistan is peace, security, stability, and economic development. Period. We are for a secure Afghanistan, a prosperous Afghanistan, and an independent Afghanistan. We do have good relationship with the central government there, and we have high respect for the institutions, constitutional institutions of Afghanistan, and with Taliban, I think it's a very complicated issue. They don't depend on Iran or whatever, and I think it is a wrong assumption if you think that Iran is supporting them. I think we may have some type of interaction, even not officially, with different
local
with different parties in Afghanistan for our own security. But it is a wrong assumption that we equate Taliban with Iran. So we continue.
Thank you. Just one question. Security development and so on, but by what means? What are
Very
the
good
tools?
question. Very good. First of all, by diplomatic relationship. So we have established a good relationship with the government in Kabul, and we work with that government. So we have a good diplomatic presentation and tie. And actually, the second issue that I can say by economic ties, I think right now there are about, different contracts. I think the volume of economic interaction between Afghanistan and Iran is about $5 billion.
more than nearly 10 billion.
Yeah,
10 billion.
10 billion. So maybe 10 is the totality of both sides. So a good portion of Afghanistan economy is dependent on Iran and the interaction with Iran. The third, I would say, the migrant community of Afghanistan in Iran. which are more than 2 million, and they are the source of economic development in Afghanistan in different ways, not just by sending money, which is a good part, but they are also educated in Iran, and I think a good number of Iranian, Afghanistan elites are educated in our universities free of charge, I have to say, by a scholarship of the government. And the list goes on by people-to-people level of contact and by different social interactions. And recently, I have to add what we did in our institute. We had a conference on Afghanistan, international conference, where we invited all major figures of Afghanistan and, of course, the international community. But it was a closed scholarly conference. But who spoke in our conference was Karzai. So I invited personally, I wrote a letter, and it was a very, Dr. Musa was in charge with the part. I was also helping the Central Asian Conference. So they were both involved, and it was one of the best that's a conference I had. The reason that I say it's best because it provided understanding. So Iran tries to create understanding of issues related to Afghanistan and solution session. And finally, I would say on the international side, we work with everybody who is for a secure and a stable Afghanistan. I personally represented my government just 2 months ago in New York in several international conferences on Afghanistan, including Heart of Asia, senior level, senior official level, and including another one with the neighbors of Afghanistan, so forth. Because whatever happens in Afghanistan impacts our security. Significantly more importantly, Afghanistan culturally is very close to us. Then I was in Kabul just 3 months ago, and we went also to Panjshir by our Afghan host. So familiar, and especially by the degree of pressure poetry, which was cited by ordinary people. And I came to this conclusion that in Iran we have less poetry than Afghanistan, because the level of poetry was much more enhanced and advanced.
We would like to thank Professor Jeff Ford taking time from his busy schedule to come and give us his talk, and it was very enlightening. Then we are sorry that we didn't have much time for questions.
Oh, we have actually we have to run to the airport, but I'm ready to lose my flight and answer your question.
And we feel the pain of Iran after this earthquake, and we wish that Allah bless the patience for the rest. And also we'd like to thank Excellency Mustafa Demircioğlu for coming and for the delegation that coming with the professor. And thanks for the listening. And please.
Thank you for listening.